Hey, I'm Rich. I build stuff. This is part 2 of my Flower Class Corvette build. You know, the nice Revell kit. Now, last time, I was about to take the boat and put it into a kind of rig like this, but not quite this one, and then pour the hot water in to straighten it. Well, I did. I did. And I horribly messed it up. So now you're going, okay, well then why are there two? Because I was able to buy another one. I was also finally able to get my hands on this, but this is going to come a lot later in the process for those of you familiar, because I like to add interiors to my boats, like that one. I also like to film the process of making these wood fixtures here. Unfortunately, I couldn't this time because, well, I did film it, but the SD card broke on me when I was trying to upload it to my computer. So instead, we've got to just say that I did the usual, wood glue construction. I used those plans I just flashed to place these kind of bulkhead locators or frame locators that I put onto the thing, and to select which frames I would tee off of, using these calipers to measure spaces between frames, and from a known start point being the very back of the stern. And some of these features, these frames, I even aligned with some features on the model, so that was a nice plus. Going out of that, then what I did was I started pouring the silicone in there. Of course, you're supposed to stir vigorously. Well, that's not vigorous. Come on, stir vigorously. Come on, that's a little better. That's a little better. What are we? Don't drink it. I guess that's why I don't remember anything till this morning. Oh yeah, now I remember. So I was pouring the silicone in, and this side, you may have seen some of the bottom. There's some two bottom dowels at this box thing I've made to fixture the boat while I'm cutting doing the pours, and I'm cutting this silicone piece out. But that's all because the stern was cocked back, like at an angle, right? It was in a 1 degree angle, kind of going upward from the rest of the boat. So to make the pour do this, I raised the other end of the boat about half an inch, or rather the other end of the trough about half an inch, and I used dowels at the bottom of this fixture in order to facilitate that. So it acts like a sign bar. And this piece of modeling clay acts like a dam. And I put it in the dam hull, and I use the dam woodland scenics as a sealant, and I use the dam popsicle stick and my damn fat fumbling, tongue-twisted tongue. And then I pour in the damn silicone to run the course of this damn joke. But yeah, I pour in this silicone. I've been calling it resin by accident. You'd think that me being a guy and, silicone being an artificial breast, I'd get silicone right, but nope. I also got this pour wrong. I poured too much. Apparently, I poured a H cup and only wanted a C cup. So I tried evening it out first. That didn't get it to the level I wanted, so I had to suck some of the silicone out. I know, the boat's probably going to be mad at, not being a ginormous bust size, but this boat hull is not paying me to do this. Neither is the original kit manufacturer, by the way, in case that's important to anybody later. But hey, now that I've poured the silicone, I can cut the darned excess out. Okay, now the joke has run its course. And apparently my kid in the background approves. So there I go. I'm cutting out the excess along the edges. That kind of like stuff that goes up the edges a little bit if you're pouring into something. And then I pour the rest of this front bit, and I jump now to the part where I've done all my pours to the front end. Whenever I do a pour, which I haven't shown really here, I show later, is I do spray mold release. Kind of like I do release this jam bit there. So then I can go ahead and retilt the boat. There's the mold release I just mentioned. I should have applied much more liberally between all the other pours, though. Because even though this bit comes out reasonably easily, for its pour, the unfortunate bit is the rest of the boat does not want to. So I take apart the fixture, I pull out the dowels, I tear out the, wood guys, and then I pull out the boat itself, which got a bit more stuck than I had expected on account of silicone leaking out of the portholes. So I have to remember that for next time, clear up the portholes. Then I take the scalpel and proceed to do some butchery. Unfortunately, to the boat, I was trying to get the stuff loose to start peeling it away. Eventually, I got the back end loose, and I was able to pull the whole glob of silicone out and start carving it up with the scalpel. Now, yes, I mentioned butchery. You would think I'd use a butcher's knife to do butchering, but no. You see, working with models, you want to use a scalpel blade. One, they're cheap, and two, if you're working with a giant butcher's knife, I mean, yeah, you only got to pay for it once, but it's going to keep carving into your hands due to the fiddly work you're going to be needing to do with the tip. And if I drop a butcher's knife, it's going to totally go through my member. Versus if I drop a scalpel, I'm just going to have a piercing. So now we all know why I prefer the scalpel blade. Plus, if it's sharp and if it's fresh, it might even be sterile, minimize the damage. Like I tried to do and failed on this butchered bottom boat insert. But hey, at least the thing I didn't butcher was this carving down of my polystyrene sheet so that I could handle it more easily. And I also was even able to trace the outline of the this deck insert. Now, the reason that I traced the outlines rather than doing the pass trick with the air spray was, one, I just didn't want to use that much airbrush paint. And two, the pencil does give me the opportunity, if I see obvious errors, more easily to kind of fix them, rather than having to, trick my brain to go with a pencil trace after, say, the, airbrushing goes off. So, but here I go now, tracing my penciled in lines with the scalpel. I do some little carving out, not only to get the profile better and adjust to the boat, but also to get the little nudgets in the side there of that are supposed to line up to where a part of the model was supposed to be originally. That accommodates some features, but I'm not using that bulkhead, the one that the model maker provided. No, I'm making my own, and so that means I need to get an outline for this bulkhead so it'll fit nicely into the hull. So that's what we're doing here. I'm checking the fit, then I go ahead and I trace around parts. I don't trace around the bulkhead though. I trace around the stern piece, the stern deck insert, because repetition is a little important, because that's the same process. So we go ahead, we do the trace, we do the cut. And then what we should see after a first test fit is a second test fit. But this time, first I got to add a little vertical part to the, that stern piece, just so that it holds itself at the appropriate angle, as well as just for added, rigidity for it. Here we go. Measuring the size of this now so I can find its center line. I mark it off, first light with the calipers, then a bit more with the mechanical pencil. And then using one of those old wood fixture bits as a fixture for the gluing of my stern bit there, and then two of them to hold it in place. I finally decide that the AK glue is dead, and I switch to my Tamiya glue before doing a bit of final adjusting of the stern piece to really get that fit just right. But now we gotta ask, how am I gonna hold these pieces in? Magnets! Magnets are great because they'll stick to each other and you can place them in. They're small and unobtrusive, and they'll hold to the plastic if you put enough super glue. As for where to put those magnets, that's what looking at these plans is for. And I'm just putting a bit of this plan looking here just to honor the fact I did that throughout this process, and I'm going to keep doing it throughout the process. But sometimes what I plan doesn't quite work out, so I gotta get creative, like with this plasticine here, and with the kind of bottom insert that I made for this part of the deck. So this deck insert got something almost totally custom. So there we go, and now that I have that insert, I tested the old one, found it didn't work, so I went ahead, used the size of the plasticine and the size of the actual deck thing to make a new insert, and that fit just about perfectly, at least for my needs. So there we go, a little adjusting, and finally we are glued in. We're great, we're secured, awesome. And then I place the magnets. Now you're thinking, doesn't the magnet get attracted to metal? And yes, it does. And later I fixed this by using titanium, but that's not at this point in the video. So now I'm using the pencil lead, I'm using plastic to move the super glue around. I use the Tamiya thing just to hold that down, when I've weighed it. And you'll see those magnets. What I would do is I would super glue the magnet to one end of the things that need to be joined, then put the other magnet on top of that, and then I would have the just a little gob of super glue on the magnet before I place it in, so that the magnets will still separate. They're not bound to each other with the super glue, but they're bound to their separate pieces. Speaking of a separate piece, here I am, cutting something up, cutting it to size, making sure everything's all good with that outline. And I believe this one goes onto my stern piece, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it does. Great. And of course, after adding that stern piece and making sure that its magnets are in position to secure it to the bottom of the boat, because you saw me secure just the, bow piece. After this, a bit more sanding, a bit more correcting. I finally am able to use the hull itself as a sort of fixture, along with a bit more adjusting here. But I used the hull itself as part of how I was fixturing these bulkhead pieces I was making in place. Sometimes after putting them in, I had to adjust them, like you saw just there. And once I had this stern piece, I went ahead and did the upper stern level and did the magnet fixing trick with that, so that I would, have a good part of the stern, at least, in a reasonably fixed place to start working with these parts. And then I go ahead and I move on to the bow for a little while, because I'd realized something that I finally figure out after, that bow bit there, which was I had to somehow deal with the fact that the engine room went through the whole boat. So that's where the engine room is. You'll see my deck piece I made for the stern is too long because it goes over the engine room. And the way the engine room was, it had catwalks, kind of. So it wasn't like actual solid decking between two areas. So that necessitated me cutting this deck guy in half. So that fits in nice. But then how do I secure that deck that I also have to adjust again into, going onto the stern? Well, here's how. I put on some magnets and I measured the two of them, where the bottoms of them would be. And then I decided I would disguise magnets like this as structural members. So you see me here marking where I'm going to put structural members. You should see me cutting up some of the styrene to make these fake structural members. And I glue them in place. But first I make a couple of special ones. I added like a little rib detail to them, just so that they'd act as more surface area to hold the magnet, as well as maybe look a little cooler just for where the magnets are. Maybe make the magnet look a little more like there's some important detail of it. So there we go. Snip, snip after those are done. I cut them deliberately long before cutting them to length. And that way, they'll be there, they'll cover the whole thing. But I still have that extra bit of, plastic that I can just kind of cut in the ends. That way I can keep everything nice and flush. The whimpering you hear in the background is my dog. Do you want to say hello, Brady, to the internet while I'm editing? Are you just that wrapped upon my looking at the magnets and stuff? Speaking of the magnets, sometimes you gotta put pieces together and the magnets don't want to stick onto the pieces, or you have some unintended gap. Well, that red paint left those two red dots, allowing me to place magnets in a compatible orientation onto my upper stern bit there, or upper interior stern deck, before finally, embedding those two little guys in a bunch of super glue. And then when that was all dried, success. Magnets, kids! And then, of course, because we're moving back onto the front area, another, just use of the, silicone bit there, securing it in, using the wood of the previous fixture as fixturing for this. Look upon my progress, ye mighty in despair. It's going faster than the Dreadnought, but, it's also a smaller vessel. I think I make that same remark later. But I've been recording voiceover so much, almost as much as I've been doing test fittings of these other deck pieces. And, of course, butchering the original kit itself, and that's what you see me doing there. Just getting it, because that was the frame bit of the model original that I mentioned, the original kit. But now it's just going to be part of those upper decks and stuff. So, yeah, I'm checking there. The fit looks good. All these deck pieces of the model itself look good. They actually fit really good, all things considered. I'm probably not going to have to heavily adjust that. But what tongue twister. What needed further effort was adjusting that back frame guy that I had, because I mucked up the placement of a frame, and it went all kind of uneven looking, but the boiler rooms were even. So I took a little artistic license rather than doing every single thing over, because, well, one, I was at this point getting get it done itis, as well as having the just having some artistic license is a good thing. The wife wants me to make this a bit different than your standard flower class Corvette. you know. But that's neither here nor there. We'll get into changes later. Right now, I'm adding the chain lock, the kind of back of the chain locker frame. And then this little guy actually is going to be splitting up the chain locker. And the reason I added this piece, yes, it's like a wall instead of an actual frame, whatever. I don't know what they call those in the nautical trades. I'm not a boat engineer. But, yeah, so I glue that front, which I think was the back of the would have been the back of the forepeak or something. And then, after doing a bit further adjusting, I add a second bottom, you know, frame bit to this deck insert, just to try to add a little more rigidity and strength to the whole affair. Then I compare everything, you know, it seems that everybody's lining up good. And then I start working on making, you know, magnetic attachments for where this, for where that large deck insert is going to attach, because it needs to attach to places that are magnetized as well. I'm going to secure all these decks into each other. You'll be able to pull them all out, but they still got to go down, go kind of flush with each other, and have a nice set orientation to really line things up. And magnets are going to be amazing for that. I can already tell. Like, what didn't work great in the Dreadnought because it was an afterthought. I didn't build it in as I was going, but I'm building it in as I go now. Also, I didn't need the red dot trick for this. I did the super glue on a magnet that's already being held in place by another magnet trick, and that worked a treat for this. Now, as for where I'm going to put the frontal magnets for this, I don't think I do that in this video here. I think what I did instead is I went to cutting out the areas that would be for the boiler rooms, because the boiler rooms had side tanks, so you can hide walls in there, you know, and other nice structural type features. And also they also have these Serco fans, which you'll see as I make the measurements. You know, I've referred to the plans, believe it or not, and then adjusted them according to what was actually in my model. So I took limited artistic license. But as you can see, I make dots. I actually do try to keep things square and level and neat. That's why you see me breaking out that gray square so much. Yep, I also use it in the construction of the wood fixtures. But sometimes I do fun things like make the dotted line, you know? Sign on the dotted line, they told me. They didn't tell me that they would expand my penis to longer than 2 angstroms. Okay, enough of the small dick jokes. I think these have run their damn course too. But anyways, as you can see, I'm carving out the area for where the boiler rooms went up multiple decks. First, I cut out kind of the general outline. You'll see there's 2 places that are left that I then keep going. These are them, and these are those like Serco or whatever it is fans I mentioned. I think these were forcibly blowing, you know, air into the boilers. As for from where, well, to line that up might actually require I do some building of details of the model kit itself to line up like I've got here. But that's for the next time. Alright, so a little not so great over here. I'll zoom back in here. For this little, you know, thing over here. But I can still tweak things. I can still make adjustments, you know, bend this up and stuff. Maybe tweak where this goes to make sure all these line up. But as you can see, we have, you know, some magnets that are hidden with some structural details. I'll have to add these little, you know, like beam guys to all of these to really, you know, get the look to start going in. But so far, this is going like a lot. Well, it's a smaller vessel, so, you know, a lot less complexity. But it is at a bigger scale, so it's like I've got more details I really ought to pay attention to. So yeah, there's, you know, both of those things. But I think because one, let's face it, it's been like way too long since I put up one of these videos out, and 2, you know, I've got some more hemming and hawing to do. And I am rich. I build stuff. This is part 2 of the Flower Corvette build playlist. Probably gonna switch back to the B-17 for the next video I do. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, until then, I guess it's time for the YouTube dance of like, share, subscribe. Hooray! Alright, peace out.